Welcome back to the Fuse Show, everybody. I'm joined by my guest today, Janardan Dalmia, who goes by JD, and he is the founder of Truckin. JD has spent over 10 years working as an investment banker with Bank of America and Barclays in New York and Dubai. He holds a Bachelor of Science in Management with a minor in Finance and Marketing from Purdue University. JD was bit by the entrepreneurial bug in 2017 when he founded Truckin, which is a technology-driven enablement platform that revolutionized the transportation industry in the Middle East and Pakistan. In Dubai, JD realized that the transportation industry in the Middle East was still waiting for the Industry 4.0 moment, where a technology-driven platform would step in to revolutionize the way transporters and shippers do business. So JD, I appreciate you joining us. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jim. Pleasure is all mine.
Awesome. Let's jump right in. I want to learn a little bit more about what you do at Truckin. So tell me the backstory and the problem that you solve.
Sure. So at Truckin, we define ourselves as a technologistics platform whereby we act as an aggregator, aggregating, trucks which are out there in the market to provide long haul and short haul service to our corporate customers. Our customers are typically manufacturers, producers, companies who require, to move heavy cargo load from point A to point B within Middle East and Pakistan. And we help provide that service to them through, thousands of truck drivers who work through us, through our platform, and we enable them to kind of work, and make an honest living. And that's what we do in summary.
So I'm curious. So you graduated from high school in India, right? Came to the States, went to Purdue University, spent some time in your professional career in the banking sector in the U.S. So why Dubai? How did you go from that to the startup in Dubai in Pakistan?
So I think for this we'll need to go back to the 2008 crisis.
Okay.
When Wall Street was kind of, everyone knows the 2008 crisis. So I started my career at Bank of America. And then in 2007-8, I joined Barclays, which was really building up its team in the North Americas. 2008 crisis happened. Barclays ended up acquiring Lehman Brothers in the North America, and the rest of the Lehman Brothers was kind of sold to Nomura. So suddenly you had a very strong investment banking franchise in the Americas. And then Barclays was looking to build out its investment banking across Europe, Asia, and other places. I was part of the global TMT team, Telecom, Media, and Technology, and we were working on, pitching a few particular M&A opportunities. 2009 was, a down year in general. 8 and 9, US was still kind of figuring it out and coming out of the whole, the situation. Whereas there was an opportunity for me to spend 6 months out of one of our international offices to help, further the team that we had. And I kind of took that opportunity head on because I was very excited that I'm going to get a chance to work abroad for 6 months and I'm going to build experience. So I spent some time in Hong Kong, then came to Dubai. We were, advising on a particular transaction that we ended up winning the mandate. And this company which we were advising was from India. So obviously, given the natural background, it made sense for me to work on it. And obviously, I was here in Dubai. I was loving the region. So I decided to stick on for 6 months here, and post the 6 month, the project got extended for another few months. And post the secondment, I was supposed to move back to, either the base or one of the other offices. Dubai was still growing. I was really enjoying our time. Company was still looking to build its franchise in the region and decided to, continue my career here. And as a part of that, I kind of made Dubai our home. Mm-hmm. And that's how I landed up being in Dubai.
Okay. You were telling me off air that it's regularly over 100 degrees there. Is that the case?
Yeah, I mean, it gets literally hot, right? I mean, we're in the desert, but I think Dubai has really managed it well in the sense that they have created amazing infrastructure, right? So unless you really need to be out, you don't need to be out. And even if you're out, they have created like world-class infrastructure, which is second to none. So I think that really is making a huge difference in the region.
That's great. I would love to visit. It's on my short list of places to come visit. I've seen pictures and videos and definitely in awe of what they've done. So
Truly fascinating.
how did you get the idea of Truckin? You started in 2017, right?
Yeah. So, between 2011 and before I started, I was traveling to Saudi a lot as a part of my normal, professional career. And during my visits to Saudi, I was spending a lot of time meeting, CEOs, chairmen of various companies. And I remember during one such meeting, there was a discussion around logistics and how big of an internal demand they had in their own company, and how old school or how dependent they were on some of the legacy ways of doing things. At this was around 2015ish. Around the same time, I was reading about various logistic companies, emerging in Asia, in India, particularly in the US, in China. And there were like, hundreds of startups globally trying to solve the big logistic situation after, what we had seen was happening in the ride hailing market after the Ubers of the world, right? So that's where really the idea kind of sparked. And I was reading about them. I started digging more deeper into the market, revalidating and researching whether this makes sense. I went to India, met with a couple of players there, understood that the opportunity is real. There is a gap in the market whereby you need to bring in transparency, efficiency, and create this enabling platform for thousands of truck drivers who are out there. And also companies are looking for a better service and someone who's going to infuse technology into this. So more and more as I researched on it, I got sucked into it, I would say. To me, it became pretty clear that if I don't do it, someone else will do it.
Sure.
This change is about to come, and I just kind of, jumped into it.
That's great. So you kicked it off in 2017. It looks like you raised a $3.5 million round in 19, and
Correct.
then more recently a $7 million round. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
What kind of progress did you guys make on that first $3.5 million round? Like, what was the focus at that point?
So look, the idea was to bring in capital from people who specifically understand our space and who are there for the long run, right? Who are not just there to invest and flip, but who are there to invest and stay, who believe in your journey because the company is still small, and you want people to believe in the overall sector and the idea, and who are going to provide you that support, mentally at least, right? Apart from the financial resources. And we brought in some large family offices in the region, along with the publicly listed company, who kind of understand the sector and industry in the region, who have been there for generations, who own multiple industries, factories, etc. So people who are kind of very much, well ingrained into the economic environment of the region. And that's how we brought them in.
That makes sense. Was it an easy decision for you to bring on capital, or was that a challenging decision to make?
No, look, I think from a startup perspective, at some point, you start from your own investment, but the vision is always to make it something, large and sustainable enterprise. And for that, unfortunately, capital is a very finite resource. So you always have to look into various pockets to raise capital. So raising capital was not a difficult decision. I think the timing of it, the quantum of it, all these things are kind of more relevant, decisions to make at that point in time, and then choosing the right partners to bring on.
Yeah, that makes sense. I read an article about you guys in the national news on the nationalnews.com. And one of the things that was mentioned on the article is that you guys are venturing into fintech for payment solutions, insurance, and other financial services. And it got me thinking about the idea in our business. We're very much doing the same thing, where we started with one core product, and then we're scratching our own itch internally. And from then we're adding more products that are adjacent to the original product. So I'm curious how you guys made that decision of like sort of venturing out a little bit into these different product lines versus just sticking with your core focus.
So the way we look at things is, we serve a huge driver community, huge truckers community, right? and what can we do to add to that ecosystem or to make that ecosystem better in their journey, right? And one of the huge elements of our business is kind of paying the transporters once they have finished the job,
Okay.
and that's still kind of hugely dependent on cash economy, right? But where the world is shifting is kind of moving towards cashless, right? So digitizing that is kind of the fintech angle we want to take, because that not only helps from the security perspective, but also these drivers or the truck drivers or our partners who make money or who earn this hard-earned living, uh, go, they need money to repatriate back home. So this is very much required to, kind of up for the upliftment of the ecosystem.
That makes sense. As a founder, how did you make that decision of when it's like when you felt comfortable venturing into that area of the business? I mean, you've been around what, 4 years, give or take now. So like, what led to the decision? Like, how did you feel comfortable sort of making that where you felt like your core product was stable to allow you to put the resources towards a new product?
Yeah, look, I think we don't want to deviate from our core product. That's never, we don't want to lose the focus. This is always, trying to figure out what else can we do in parallel. And you're absolutely right that one has to manage the resources very efficiently in this. And this is one area where our next parallel focus is kind of going on. There are still like hundreds of other areas which we think we want to tackle with, but we haven't ventured into it just because we would have a limited bandwidth and limited resources to deploy.
Yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense. I'm curious. This is like a little off on a side topic, but have you ever ridden in one of the trucks? Like, have you ever done a ride along with one of the drivers just to kind of see what their world is like?
Yeah, man, it's amazing actually. What I used to do before I started the business was, you will find a lot of truck drivers in the region who come from India, from Pakistan, from the subcontinent here. I grew up in India, so I can speak the local language. And while researching, I would go down to these, rest areas and go meet with the truck drivers. Funny story, before I would, I was a banker, so I would always be in my suit with my shirt and tie and cufflinks, etc. And as soon as I would go there, these guys would be thinking like something is off, right? Like, why is this guy here? Is he spying on us? Is he
Yeah.
trying to get some information? What is it? So they would never be open about it. And then I realized it fairly quickly. Like, look, the audience is different. I switched into jeans and t-shirt, and I would go down, speak the local language. I will sit with them, make them comfortable on a friendly basis, have a cup of tea, which they make on their truck. So it's amazing. In fact, by the way, on the side of the truck, they have this secret compartment, which is almost like your mobile kitchen.
Okay.
So they sit there, they make the tea, and you have a cup of tea with them, you get them talking, and that's how, you kind of learn a lot about it. So I did spend a lot of time, on the ground, meeting them in person, moving around, because the best way to learn about it is when you are actually feeling it.
Yeah.
Uh, so yes, learned quite a lot on
Yeah.
that basis.
Good for you. That's respectable. How has that shaped the development of your product?
Look, I think learning of a product, again, this is something which I can now probably, speak from the benefit of being in the hindsight.
Sure, sure.
That as a first-time founder, without much experience into the startup world, I wanted to get out there with a perfect product, right? I spent a lot of time, crossing the T's, dotting the I's, ensuring, oh man, if I do this, this will be amazing, and if I do that, that will be amazing. Um, and then I did that, and I launched, and then I learned the concept of what is MVP, right?
Okay.
That what you want to build versus what you think is the right one. When you actually go in the market and when your consumers actually use it, is a very different experience. So theoretically, a lot of these things happen, but practically it's a bit different. And I see that happening all the time with a lot of, founders who are working on, great ideas they really believe in, and they feel that, if they come out with this perfect product will change the world overnight, and they keep on delaying their launch. And I always tell them, man, it's great what you're doing, but there is a lesson when the word MVP has a meaning. It was coined for a certain reason,
Yeah.
and I have learned it firsthand. So, yeah.
So it's fair to say that the existing product is quite different than your original vision in 2017 or before.
Yeah, look, vision is still intact in terms of what we want to achieve, but the road to get there has kind of, evolved over time. And there are a lot of other things which have come into that play, right? So it's almost like when you wanna go, climb Everest, for example, you first have to climb 1,000 meters, right? You can't aim that I need to be prepared for first 8,000 meters, right? So take baby steps, like,
Yeah.
first climb 1,000 meter, learn from what you have learned over that journey, then climb the other 1,000, climb the other 1,000, right? Get accustomed to the overall thing. That's my personal learning basically over the last few years.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. If 25-year-old JD was the founder and CEO of Truckin, how would it be different?
This is actually a very interesting question. Look, I think a 25-year-old JD, speaking personally about me, I don't think I would be that good of a founder, because I did 10 years of banking, which taught me a lot in terms of corporate finance, accountability, responsibility, ownership of work. And that translates more, because in my opinion, when I approach things, I approach more from a matured point of view on how to reach out to the business versus, okay, this is a dream come true and let's get cracking and let's see what happens. So personally, and I'm sure like a lot of people who start young, they do extremely well. They're more energetic. But I think personally for me, I think I learned a lot from my past career, and specifically about being accountable and being able to relate with all of my colleagues who are working for Truckin, being on their shoes, how people approach things and how they like to be treated, they like to be worked. So I just feel that it taught me a lot, on the both emotional intelligence part, on the EQ
Yeah.
part,
Yeah.
and also what truly means being responsible or accountable.
Yeah. One of the things, this isn't always true, but in many cases I see that older founders, and in this space, of course, older is, 35 or 40 plus years old as compared to early 20s. There's generally a development of more humility. And I think about when you talk about the MVP idea, it's like I can easily see a scenario where we could go in and be very, very proud of our product and very prideful that's like, no, this is the way it's going to be, and less receptive to feedback from the drivers, for example.
True. True, totally. I mean, I think what you're saying makes perfect sense, because um, I think humility is another attribute which I think almost all founders should have, right? Uh, I mean, I can't speak for others, but I mean, I'm truly grateful for what if we look like a success. I mean, I don't know if we are successful or not yet, but if we do look like success, I think it's truly a team's huge effort that we continue to put on a regular basis. And I'm sure at some point we might have gotten lucky somewhere. Things would have worked out for us, because it's tough to build any startup business. Yeah.
Absolutely. I want to, along these lines, draw your attention to something that you said previously. I have it in my notes here, and I wish I could remember where you wrote this. Maybe it was on an article or maybe your LinkedIn, but speaking about a successful founder, kind of what makes a successful founder, you said adaptability, passion, perseverance, and grit. And I'm
Yeah.
curious how you think of those things and how you apply those things.
So when I say adaptability, and if I put that in one bucket, passion, because you have to be because as a startup, you know more than anyone else. You kind of a lone ranger there, right? So unless you are excited about it, and people, let me tackle passion first. People talk about passion, and they might feel that every morning when you get up and go to work, you're super excited. I mean, this is no like walk in the park, or this is not a trip to Disneyland on a daily basis, right? I mean, no, not every morning when I get up, I am like super excited that, whoa, man, I can't get to be in the office. No, man, you are like a human being. You are down, you are out, you are tired, you are stressed, you don't know what you need to deal with. You have like 30 other problems which are there, uh, which is, so passion, but passion to me is still being on it, right? Despite all the challenges, hurdles, etc., you have still decided that no, this is the journey I want to take, and I still believe in it, and I'm going to go for it, right? So that to me is somewhat passion, which kind of is related with perseverance and grit.
Right.
I think grit and perseverance are like so important in any business, right? It doesn't matter what product you have, doesn't matter what idea you have. Products can be replicated. Ideas will evolve. Once you have started the business, you might need to pivot, you might need to grow. But what keeps you going is your perseverance, right? And the sheer grit of doing things, right? You would you would face 20 challenges in a day, but you're looking for that one high, right? When you feel, oh yeah, man, this is okay, I'm working.
Yeah.
Because you might go through 20 lows in a day, but you have to self motivate yourself to look for that one high. And I think that's what I define as perseverance and grit, and passion being just continuing to do it regularly, and adaptability, because that is so true. In today's environment, things change overnight. I mean, who had predicted COVID? I mean, so many companies had to repurpose themselves, pivot, move on, recalibrate. And if you are adaptable to change, I think that's the biggest flexibility. And that's really what I also tell all of my colleagues also, people who we hire, etc. What I look for is really, are they adaptable? Because a startup culture is so different, right? I mean,
Yeah.
if you want to hire people who have experience, you're clearly hiring it from companies, large companies where they have spent time. But then who have, maybe bigger infrastructure, solid infrastructure, things under place. But when they join a fast growth startup, are they really adaptable to that change? Are they really adaptable to changing the ways do things, roll up their sleeves, get their hands dirty? So I think that's where the adaptability comes. So I feel if you have these four qualities, then it really sets you up to tackle with anything which might come your way, right? Because if you see a competition, you see something changing, you see the market trend changing, your adaptability helps you change that. Your perseverance and grit makes you go those 100 miles, and your passion kind of makes you do it day in, day out, right? Even when you are kind of low. So that's largely how I think, some of the attributes which are important as a founder.
So if passion is the fuel that pushes you, that propels you through perseverance, grit, etc., what is that fuel? Like what for you personally, what gives you that passion? Like what's your deeper why behind what you do?
See, my why is that when I thought about this business, I saw an opportunity in the market, right? That there are these thousands of truck drivers, and with the help of what we are doing by aggregating them, we can enable them to do quality work and earn honest living. And that why still stands true. Now, to do that journey, obviously you're going to go through a several ups and downs and challenges. So as long as the the initial why I went into this business kind of still true for me, I still want to do it, and there is no reason for me, even you're coming out of a stressed environment or a stressed situation, to look back, because to me I look at I've already come more than halfway through to kind of go back, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you are on a 10-mile journey, if you are on a sixth mile, you don't want to, go back sixth mile because the next 4 miles will be difficult. So for me, you know, another way I look at startup, right, or the business, building a business, is almost like driving a car in the dark, right, with your headlights on. So imagine if you were going to embark on a 10,000 kilometer or 10,000 mile journey. If you could see the whole road, you probably won't start. But
Yeah.
driving in the night and you see, okay, there is a 10-meter road, I need to drive there and the road will unfold. You just have that faith, and that's pretty much it, right? So the road kind of keeps
Yeah.
on unfolding and you keep on creating that road.
I've never heard that before. I love that analogy. That's actually really useful and resonates with me. And it's like, oddly, I think about marriage as well. Like my wife and I have been married for 16 years. And I'm like,
Yeah,
I am like fully committed forever. And she is too. It's like if she were to
yeah,
pass away before me and I was still fairly young, I honestly don't think I would start over. Not because I don't love
exactly.
being married, but it's like I've laid so, and that's why like I don't quite understand why people get divorced for flippant reasons. Like I understand if there's abuse or whatever extreme situations, but it's like, dude, you've invested for years into this person, and vice versa. It's like, I mean, like you're going to lose all that. It just doesn't. And the idea of like starting over on that journey just sounds exhausting.
Yeah, so sometimes most of the time it's good that you don't know what's out there, right? I mean, I mean,
So true.
you started this company, and I said if I would have already known that how many problems that I have for the next 5 years, or how many challenges I'm going to go on a daily basis. As I said, it's not like going to the Disneyland, right? Then I would be like, man, I can't deal with it. Let me go back to my professional life, and I'm going to just continue to do what I'm doing. So it's kind of venturing into an unknown with a leap of faith, and a bit of a research and a bit of a confidence with a lot of grit and perseverance is probably the right combination to do it.
That's so good.
And I still don't know what's out there in front of me, right?
It's just so funny to consider that it's best that you don't. It's like we can't handle that. Like if all of that was dumped on our plates all at once, that's just too overwhelming.
Totally. If
Yeah.
if all one would have a heart attack.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, what brings you joy in the day to day then? Like, because like you said, it's challenging, but I'm curious what fuels you. What gives you that joy day to day?
I think there are little things, right, which brings joy. Uh, for example, just before this chat, I was exchanging message with a very old colleague of mine from the banking days, who I haven't seen for a long time, and we were just deciding to catch up, in a week's time for a lunch. And he said, by the way, I spoke to this guy, this company in another country, and he was singing all praises about you. And I was like, who's this guy? I don't even know. Like, I'm a bit lost. So, but as long as someone is saying good things, I'm
I'll
happy.
take it. Yeah.
So it's a small, the happiness was that, look, our brand has become bigger, the business has become more tangible, that there are companies out there are people out there who I don't even know us today. When we look to hire people, there are people, highly qualified people who wish to join us in our journey. Uh, there are about hundreds of our colleagues who come here, earn a living, feed themselves, feed their families, and the business is growing. So I think these are small little things. When I look back, I feel happy about it, and I think that's pretty much it I look for.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so much joy in creating something from nothing that provides so many benefits to people. From your clients, these drivers, and then to your
Clients,
staff.
drivers, colleagues, companies, etc. So, as you said, just to create something from zero, because I remember the day when we started this company, when I went to buy the first pen for the company or the first table for the company, and from where we started, or the first chair, or hiring the first employee, and then going through so many challenges, such a like a roller coaster, right? And then if people think we are successful, although as I said, I don't know whether we are or not, because I like to, stay neutral around that, and I hope that we're going to create something far bigger than what it is today. But when people ask us about, like, that means they view us as some sort of a success, and that
Yeah.
itself is quite fulfilling, I think.
Yeah. This may be fairly obvious to most people, but for whatever reason, it struck me as interesting. I was listening to a podcast, and it's been a while ago. I don't remember which one it was or who was even speaking, but it was a venture capitalist talking about how they had funded a founder, and the founder failed. I mean, the business failed, but then they funded him again on the next venture. And I thought, wow, it's like, we know that the percentage of companies that make it are very small, even though I feel like that when we're in the weeds of it, it doesn't feel like that would ever be us. But it was just remarkable to me that it's like, we can do everything right, and sometimes the timing is off, the market is just not ready for the product or whatever, and there's a failure, but it's not necessarily attributed to the founder. So I'm curious how you handle the pressure, or if you feel pressure or sort of a weight of responsibility for all the people you serve, from your drivers to your staff, et cetera.
No, absolutely. I think there's a huge amount of pressure, constantly on you, along with you want to succeed. Obviously, everyone gets into it to succeed as a business. So if something doesn't work out, there's obviously a huge, there's a lot at stake if something doesn't work, right? From many perspectives.
Yeah.
So, but going back to what you mentioned as a VC funding founder who presumably didn't do well in his first venture, I think it makes complete sense. I don't think there is a blanket rule that one should go and found whoever has failed, but it's really about judging and knowing, did the founder put an honest effort?
Mm-hmm.
Businesses are, again, it doesn't work only because someone is a great founder or a poor founder. I think businesses work when you have a combination of things going right. It's from the sector, the timing, the industry, the team, the decisions that you make, the backers that you get, the capital that you raise, how you invest. And there are a lot of things which have to kind of go along your way. It's almost like building an engine in a vehicle, and a lot of things have to kind of work simultaneously to make that engine work. But during this whole thing, if someone is able to judge that, if there was that perseverance and grit in that founder, and still he kind of, things can go south anytime. But I think if someone kind of reads through that, then, and if you find that kind of a founder, then I think it's plus, because not only he has already gone through a massive MBA program, right, of failing that, and in his second venture, hopefully he will not be able to. He would probably be more cautious and do better. So the learning experience which you kind of go through is phenomenal.
Oh, yeah. So for you personally, do you reconcile this by just knowing that you did your best at the end of each day and kind of letting the chips fall where they may, but feeling content in that you're doing your best each day?
That's another, I think, thing which I think most of the founders struggle with. As much as you can give from your side, I think one would never be content, right? Because it's always in the hindsight, oh, I wish I had done this, I wish I had done that.
Yeah, and that's what I'm getting at.
There's always an element of wanting more, doing something better. Could have I done this in a different way? Could have I done this in a better way? Because there is always this urge of doing too many things too fast and too quickly. So that urge is always there, which leads to you to always question, okay, what else could have I done? But at the end of the day, look, as long as you get a good night's sleep, I think that's most important. I think the mental health for a founder is also should be a very key issue, because you really are kind of alone in the journey, and the struggles, the risks, the nervousness that you go through. I don't think many people can relate to that on a day-to-day basis. So, as long as, someone is able to get a good night's sleep and, is in a good condition mentally, I think those are the things which should matter.
So how do you personally find peace? I mean, I know this feeling. This has been a battle of mine for a long time. And I have points in my life where what would be the word? I abused work, where I overworked and I neglected my family because I just was too focused on the business and I wasn't present in the moment. So with the business I'm involved in now, I'm determined to not let that happen to the best of my ability. So I shut things down at 5:30 and I'm just done. but it's hard for me, man. Like I always feel like I could have done more. So to find that piece is tough.
Look, as founders, it's not a 9 to 5 job, right? So my take on this is, look, no one pushed me to do this, right? It's not a job that I took by someone telling me that these are my working hours. So it's a lifestyle. It's not really a
Hmm.
9 to 5. It's a lifestyle. You don't switch off. Just like no one is there to question you whether you showed up in the morning or not, but you are yourself, accountable and you take ownership of that. Similarly, at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., whether it's Sundays or Fridays or Saturdays, whichever part of the world you are, your brain is constantly working, right? Uh, so I don't look at it as a 9 to 5. I look at it as a lifestyle. And to answer to your question, I think that is a struggle which everyone kind of goes through.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, in the initial part of building up of the business, you do have to sacrifice, some of the family time, friends time, etc. But as long as you have a very supportive partner with you, that kind of makes a big difference because everyone understands that you have left something consciously to
Hmm.
go into something.
Yeah.
If your partner does get involved into a day-to-day business a little bit, or one has the visibility of the challenges that you go through, I think that makes it much better in terms of understanding of what you're going through.
Absolutely.
For me, fortunately, I have a good set of friends where I do hang out, once in a while that, to blow up the steam. And also, I love, my kids, once you see them, that kind of, it's the biggest stress
Yeah.
buster. But in summary, look, there is no other way around it, right? I
Sure.
mean, it's a 24/7, and you are hoping that you build business big enough where you are able to hire quality team members who would then be able to take the business forward, and you kind of
Yeah.
get more control of your time.
Right. But you have to get there, as you're saying. I mean, it's like generally you can't just do that right in the beginning.
And that's what I define as zone of pain,
Mm.
because either you are truly small and you don't need someone and you don't have the capital, then you start growing where you are starting to become a little bit large, but you still don't have the capital to hire quality member. Or you become big and you have the capital and you still need to hire people and you need to find quality people, and that's kind of the zone of pain, right? Where you are
Yeah.
not small enough that you can manage it yourself, and you're not big enough that you can hire too many people also to manage it. So
Yeah.
you kind of graduate through that zone of pain, and hopefully you graduate to the other end of the spectrum soon. Uh, you know, so it's a journey.
Yeah. No question. I wanted to ask you, what are you uniquely best at? What are your best skills that you bring to the business?
Personally, I think I have a good EQ in the business. Understanding, um, what drives the team members, what their aspirations are, and how to align that with of our vision of the company. So I personally think, you know I think that's one area I would think that I have a little bit more touch. I'm more empathetic and more compassionate with our teams, which allows them, or I feel the team members at any level to connect a lot with me. Yeah.
That's so important. So, is it fair to say you're good at aligning incentives with your team to figure out what motivates them and how to motivate them?
I feel so. I'm sure I could do much better. And
Well,
as you kind of
we all could.
grow or learn on a daily basis,
Yeah.
you can, it's a daily learning experience for me as well. But I feel that that's one area maybe I do decent.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm.
I'm curious. We'll land this plane here, but I'm curious to know how your upbringing and childhood has shaped the way that you lead now.
Super interesting. Uh, wow. So if I try to recall, obviously my growing up years, I've got two older brothers. I'm the youngest one. I come from a business family. While growing up, I was kind of a lost kid from the studies perspective. There was a few years in my life when I was, kind of lost. I wasn't focused on the studies, etc. but I was just kind of just lost, right? Maybe typical or not typical of, teenage years of my life,
Okay.
maybe, somewhere 11 to 14, 15 years of my life when I was kind of, just lost. But my father has always been super empowering, even when we were super young, right? He never questioned. He always gave us a lot of independence. He always made us feel that we are quite independent, even from a very young age. And whatever you want to do, whether you want to study, you want to go out, you want to do things. Uh, so that in, independence kind of, helped a lot in terms of gaining self-confidence, right? And then uh, combine that with the US experience and the working in a corporate environment. I think it's a combination of all those things, right? But if one or two things, if I draw from my childhood time, I think this, even if I was lost, I still had a lot of independence. And I think that mattered, right? And that probably helps me still make me feel that, look, I can be independent and I can make things happen, and gives you that confidence.
That's so key. Yeah, because you've got to have the guts to even. I mean, you left what I'm sure was a very secure job to jump up. I mean, like, I can relate to that because I did the same thing a little over a year ago, and I've done it more than once.
Yeah.
So it's like that's. I mean, it takes some guts to do that.
Totally. I think, I mean, I speak to so many of my ex-colleagues or, people who are still, in other, and they always talk about like how they would one day love to do something on their own. Or, that's a pretty natural comment you would always hear from people that, oh, wish I was doing something on my own. But there's always this huge blockage in the head, which is the admin hassle. I went through it personally as well. I remember leaving banking or, ensuring that I don't go to another banking job and do something entrepreneurial. It was not an easy decision. So I can't say that, oh, look, I was a born entrepreneur and I thought I'm going to go and rock it out. No, no. None of that happened, right? At least with me. So it was a huge, overcoming of this mental admin block that, oh man, how are things going to happen? What if, right? There's so many what ifs. And then, I guess when it just happens, as I said, if I would have already known what's out there for the next 4 years at my journey, probably I would have never started. So you start with an enthusiasm that overnight we're gonna do this, and tomorrow everyone's gonna love us, and this is a sure thing. And I think that's okay because that's the frame of mind you need to kind of start with. Because
Yeah.
if you would have known all the challenges and struggles which is about to come, then I don't think a lot of people would start that journey.
Yeah. It's made to be so glamorous, this idea of entrepreneurs and founders. And it's just, and there certainly are a lot of benefits, the autonomy, there's just a lot of benefits, but it's hard work, man. Like my past career, professional career was so much easier. Not that that was easy in and of itself, but by comparison, it was so much
By
easier.
comparison, absolutely. I think when we are into that career, we feel, oh, it's such a hard and struggle. Surely it is. It's a taxing environment. It's a. But when you look back, I mean, it's a whole set of new challenges, right? And specifically, look, I think a lot of it is, when you're working in a small setup or a startup, right? You don't have even infrastructure and resources, which people while working don't even think that is a perk, right? Or that is a additional thing which is there for them to do the job, right? People only talk about, okay, what kind of team they have, what kind of boss do they have, what kind of work are they doing, but people kind of lose that, okay, where they are working and how they are working, etc. These are, very daily part of your things which are used to, and when it goes away, and that's where the adaptability comes, right? That,
Good point.
oh man, I'm ready to leave, going to a nice office and really kind of bootstrapping and working from wherever you need to work with, right?
Totally.
And so that makes a difference.
Yeah. Well, JD, I know we need to wrap this up. This has been absolutely a pleasure. I'm super excited about what you're doing at Truckin. I'm very confident that you guys are going to be successful. I think you've got the right mix of ingredients to do so. But thank you so much for your time on the show.
Thank you, Jim. The pleasure was all mine. Lovely catching up with you.
Awesome. So we're going to have the landing page where we'll have the full video. We'll have your bio. We'll have links. What's the best way for people to get in touch with you if they just want to say hello or if they're interested in learning more about Truckin?
I'm easy to reach out to. I'm at jd@truckin.com, just the initials jd@truckin.com.
Easy enough. And we'll have we'll have the link to the website, of course, on the landing page as well. So, well, thanks again, JD. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you so much for your time as well.